Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
We are ready. Good morning, fellow commission members, staff members, and honored guests. Today's date is July 27th, 2018 at approximately 9:32 a.m. I'm Walt Valentine, Commission Chair. I'll now call to order the meeting of the Tennessee Private Investigation and Polygraph Commission. Executive Director Cody Vest, please call the roll.
Thank you. Stuart Bain.
Here.
David Brown.
Here.
Larry Flair.
Here.
Robin Johnston.
Here.
Rick Jones. Jerry Richards.
Here.
Alan Russo.
Here.
Doug Shanks.
Here.
Walt Valentine.
Here.
You do have a quorum, but we do have one member missing. Mr. Jones is missing, and Alan Russo was calling in telephonically, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. The next item on is the agenda for approval. I'd like to ask each commission member if they have received and had time to review a copy of the agenda, and if so, is there a motion to adopt this agenda?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda. Second. Commissioner Brown.
A word about that. I thought it prudent to congratulate our reporter on catching voices over a telephone, over a conference call. It was a commendable piece of work on the minutes. I'm in favor of approving the minutes.
The agenda.
The agenda. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm on that too.
I'm sorry. Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Doug Shanks. Okay.
Oops.
That's okay. And who seconded
David
it?
seconded.
I seconded. If we would identify ourselves as Commissioner so-and-so, it would help the court reporter greatly.
Yes, we do, since we, and Alan, make sure you identify yourself when you vote.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the minutes. For approval of the minutes for the last Education Committee and Commission meeting. Has each Commission member received and had time to review the copy of these minutes? And if so, is there a motion to adopt these minutes?
Yes, and I make that motion.
I'll second it. Motion by Bain, seconded by Richards. Excuse me. Okay. Any discussion?
Just again, Mr. Chairman, that the minutes were well done by someone catching them over the air telephonically. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, I would like to welcome and honor one of our former commission members, Dr. Paul Rich. Dr. Rich, please stand up. Thank you for being here and honoring us with your presence.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Rich served with us for so many years I can't remember. And thank you for your service. Okay. Next on the agenda is our legal report by Stuart Huffman, Assistant General Counsel.
Thank you. And we have two cases on the legal report. And number one is 2018-032-971. The complainant alleges she took a polygraph test and noticed the questions were basically the same questions, just reworded. Complainant alleges she paid $250 to set up the appointment and would receive up to 4 questions. Complainant had to reschedule due to lack of transportation and was told she would have to pay an additional $250 and the remainder of $100 from before. Complainant paid the $350, and on the day of the polygraph, they got lost and called to inform the respondent that they would be 7 minutes late. Complainant alleges respondent told them they would need to reschedule. Respondent states the complainant was told twice in writing and verbally that reserve time is charged, and if the customer is a no-show or will be 15 minutes late, then time is rescheduled and charged a full rate. Respondent alleges that the questions were of complainant's making. The recommendation is to close.
Any discussion? Comments?
Looking at this write-up, did she actually take the test?
She did take the test, yes.
So what's she complaining about?
She's complaining that the questions were the same questions. There were 4 questions, and she believed that they were the same questions, just reworded, but she actually made the questions herself. And some of it is the boyfriend was upset because she didn't ask certain questions.
That's not the examiner's fault.
Right.
Well, I make a motion that we accept your closure.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman. Larry Flair.
Okay. It's moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation to close this case. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Number 2, 2018-037-931. Complainant alleges they received a notice from respondent asking for personal identification, including Social Security number, in order to receive a refund from a health plan. The respondent is an agency that specializes in recovery of unclaimed property since 2002. Respondent sent notification to complainant regarding unclaimed money, and if he wanted their assistance, he would need to provide certain information in order to proceed. Respondent forwards this information to the Treasury Department, and upon approval, the check is mailed directly to the customer. Then respondent sends an invoice for the fee. The recommendation is to close.
Any comments, discussion?
Make a motion, Doug Shanks, to agree to close the.
Second, Commissioner Brown.
It's been moved and seconded to follow the recommendation to close this matter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. Russo, we didn't hear your vote.
I'm sorry. Aye.
Thank you. It's the decision to close is confirmed.
That's the end of the legal report.
Thank you. Next is appearances. Do we have anyone wanting to appear before the commission?
No, sir, I don't have anyone on the schedule to appear.
Administrative matters, Executive Director Cody Vest.
We have already sent out to you the May and June meeting monthly reports. The only thing we have on the this turn, you have the alarms and the locksmiths, but we want to get back here to private investigators. Only thing that we have is that Alan Russo's term did expire in 2014. We're still waiting for the governor's office for reappointment. At this time, I have not received any correspondence from the governor's office. Therefore, Mr. Russo continues to serve, and we thank him for doing that. We had our normal monthly meeting with Attorney General Counsel Ashley Thomas. We meet every month. I do meet with our litigating attorney. Questions about the legal report. But Mr. Thomas and I meet regularly. There is another seminar that's going to be held in Gatlinburg. At the Park Vista. I believe that's that hotel on the hill that's in the round. PI Commission used to meet there years ago, so a lot of us know where that is. Now, that seminar is going to be for all professionals to come. We still have only Last time I saw, I believe it was 75% adoption rate for our licensees to do their applications and renewals online. So we will be there to talk to all our professions. We're going to have 2 sessions again, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And PIs is all right, so PIs will be in the morning. We're asking anyone who needs to come to learn how to onboard their employees, or if you have someone from your office that needs to come and sit down with us, there'll be several of us there with our computers to give all assistance. If that is not exactly what you need, you can contact me and we will come to your place of business in Tennessee and we will assist you with this onboarding if it's necessary. So we're asking for all private investigators that need assistance or someone from their office to come and let us speak with them. Of course, our commission members, if you're in that neighborhood, would like to come, please do so at that time. All I have for the monthly report.
Excuse me, some date and time on that, please?
September 24th.
September the 24th.
Thank you.
You will be getting, we have not finalized it yet. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. You will all be receiving correspondence on that, of course. It's your place of business.
Very good. The next item on the agenda is the education report.
No, I think it's still
Budget?
me.
Okay. We haven't done the budget report yet.
Yes, if you need to talk to you for just a moment. Does everyone have this budget on their iPads?
Yes.
This is just through the end of May. Our fiscal year changes in June. I mean, it cuts off June the 30th. The new fiscal year starts July the 1st. Every year we must end in a positive balance. I don't believe that's going to happen this year. I'm not overly concerned after talking with administration about being sunset, because hopefully this is your ebb. Every year it's an up or it's a down year, and this looks like we have a down year here. Right now you're in a negative $20,956. According to what the trend is showing here at your net surplus or deficit, I don't believe we're going to be able to pull that out in 1 month. We have not seen in our office a flux of applications coming in, or this is not the renewal month for them to have a large number renewing. So I do believe you will be ending in the red this year. You ended in the red in 2 years, we're subject to sunset. We have to look at different things. Increasing fees is not something I really want to talk about. I don't know if we're at that point yet or not. I'll need to speak with our administration to see if they say some way that I'm going to be able to pull this out. If we don't have, and I've talked to you about this before, new people coming into this industry, I don't have any other alternative but to raise your fees to keep the commission going. If we continue. Questions, Mr. Richards?
Talking about the commissioners here, travel expenses to attend these meetings come out of this fund that you're talking about.
Yes.
Well, then I suggest that we go back to having the meetings like we used to, quarterly. Or if you want to have them more often, have them by telephone. Now, I don't know how much money that would save, but it would save some.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. I've talked to administration about going back and doing the every 3 months. We're here for the public. We're here for your private investigators. I will speak with management again about doing that. Telephonically, I've done that whenever I have 2 or 3 people that couldn't attend. We do it telephonically. if that's something that you want me to consider, I'll go to administration and see if that's something we can do telephonically. If we have such a short agenda like we do today, it is a lot of money to bring you in the night before. It's what we're here for. We're here for the general public. But we still have to end in a positive.
How would you handle it if somebody wants to make an appearance and we're doing it telephonically?
They would have to appear, if they were in Nashville, they would come in here like we are doing right now, and then we just call and all of it would be telephonic. I have to make sure if the information that they want you to see, we have to get out to you in advance for you. Obviously, you won't be able to see it. But we obviously don't have a whole lot of appearances. So one thing is to go back to the every 3-month meeting, or perhaps go on to telephonic meetings. Those are two ways we can accomplish this.
I have a question,
I
Chairman.
don't know how much that is. Yes, sir.
Madam Director, if in fact we raise the dues, or I'm sorry, the fees on the PI and the companies, the rate that we pay today, to date, are we comfortable with the other corresponding states or the other states surrounding Tennessee and the industry? Do you know by chance? Where I'm going with this, where are we on the scale? Are we in the ballpark with these other states?
I'm not going to be able to speak about that today. I don't know the answer to that. I do have some information here where I've contacted other states, but it's concerning the apprenticeship. I did not look to see what the fees were. That is something that I can do and get back with you. I can send you an email, give you an idea what the other states are doing. But a lot of you already have your license for Alabama, maybe Kentucky, Georgia. So you might already know what the fees are, but yes, I'll look that up. When you talk about raising fees, you're not talking about raising fees on the application. We're talking about if we do raise fees, we're talking about raising fees on the actual licensees. That would be the renewal fees. We're already apparently having difficulty getting people into your industry. The last thing I think we probably want to do is raise the fee. If it has to be done, it has to be done. But I think we need to look at everything first. So I need to get some of this information together for you so I can present it to you and we can make an intelligent decision on what to do next.
Another alternative would be to have every other meeting telephonic.
Yes, so we meet 6 times a year. We can do 3 telephonics and 3 in person, 1 every other. There's ways we can do that.
That saves enough money to balance the budget.
I don't need to know how much. I'll have to look into how much your travel expenses are and really what that would actually do to the budget. I mean, if it's $2,000, it's not going to make a difference. If it's $20,000, it'll make a difference, but it's not.
Oh, yeah, I've been reviewing and looking, and since the 2,000 hours were added, a lot of people are misunderstanding what that says. Besides 2,000 hours, it also says if they have experience, that would count, or if they have education. And those things would have to come before us. But everybody, I think, is being told you've got to have 2,000 hours to own a company. And the issue I'm seeing with myself or anybody else, we do not want to hire somebody because of liability. I noticed in 6 years, there's only been 10 polygraph examiners that came on. So that's maybe less than 2 a year. So I think the 2,000 hour requirement, people aren't understanding that's just one option. You've got 2 other options you could do, and I don't know how to address that for people that's trying to get in the field.
For one thing, we do talk about this at our seminars. But see, when I give a seminar, it's already private investigators there. It's not the public that's there. So you already know, well, hopefully you already know what the requirements are. We do get telephone calls. We do get questions. That 2,000 hours, ever since that's been in place, has been like a sore eye. I would be quite frank with you. Yes, there are other ways to get into this profession. We have a staff member who talks to the private investigators who is at the back of the room. I believe Tiffany is. She knows the rules and laws as good as I do, or so we do. She does talk to people. We do it all the time. Yes, sir. I have heard that a lot. I will be sure to make a note of that, would you? And we will discuss it again at the seminars to try to clarify it. Make sure the private investigators and the company owners that are there understand. If we get invited to the associating meeting, that is something I could talk about, is the requirements for a private investigator along with their apprenticeship. That's something we can, but again, that's private investigators, that's not the public.
Director, if you will, Larry Flair, is that a legislative deal, or is that a rule that this commission can change? I think we actually voted that in several years ago.
That's the statute. It is in the statute.
So it is in the statute. So that'll have to go to the Hill to be changed.
Yes, sir.
Correct? And we can't do that until next July.
Next session.
Yeah. Or February.
September.
Yeah.
Sometime maybe in September, or late August, September.
And help me with this. What's the procedure for us to ask to go to the Hill and ask for that legislative to be changed? We have to get somebody to sponsor it and things of that nature. Is that correct? Is it like
that is one option. The other is to submit a legislative proposal to our administration, and if they decide to put that in their packet to take to the governor, it would go as part of the department's bill, the Department of Commerce and Insurance as a whole. But if that is not done, then you'd have to find a sponsor on the Hill to carry the bill.
Can you address, please, ma'am, what type of notification? Could we maybe think on that before our next meeting and maybe get some feedback from the other commissioners or whatever to see if we want to go in that direction as well?
Absolutely. I'll talk to my management to determine when those deadlines are for me to prepare the proposal to submit for the department's bill, and I will let you all know at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
A question on this budget. Are there, for going forward in FY19, are there expenditures that could go down? I frankly don't know Edison expenditures well enough to, so I'd ask you what that's about.
Edison expenditures, that is where all the expenses, our expenses and your expenses are coming out. We do have an increase, it looks like, there in March. Then we went to April increase, then we went down again in May. You can tell the months that we don't have the board meetings.
Okay, likely the May went down because we were by phone. I see.
I mean, you have basically one staff member besides us.
Right.
Here for the then you have the administrative cost. That is actually our cost as well as the 5th floor and the 11th floor. Those are expenses above us. Legal looks like it's holding pretty regular. Well, actually, it's going down. Went up a little bit. We had something in May. But legal costs are not that great. We don't do any field because we don't have any investigators, and I haven't had anything to investigate. That's when that would happen. Customer service, that is something that is brand new. That's the customer service. That is where, when you make or investigators or public make a telephone call, you go right straight into our Zendesk, which is customer service. You are aware that you do not get someone in our office. You get the Zendesk. It's a call center. That may be some of the problems that you addressed, Mr. Shanks. I will talk with them about making sure they know what the laws are when they speak to someone who wants to become a private investigator. We have asked them, Mr. Richards, if they want to talk to someone concerning a polygraph, that they come straight into our office. We have so few very polygraph, so many very few examiners, excuse me. And I always have to pull the book out and go down line by line by line, or if I do have any difficulty, I do call Mr. Richards on that. That's a little bit harder to teach someone to do when you only have maybe one call every 6-7 months or something of that nature. But I will talk with them about coming and sitting with us again. They have what they call pods. They have 3 or 4 people that do just my professions in that pod. So we try to get those specific people over to our office and sit down and try to train them like I would someone who was working in my office to answer those questions. If you have our telephone numbers, you might want to keep them, because I don't have the calls ringing at the desk anymore. Everything except for mine or Mark, Amy, Shauna, and I think Tiffany. Some of you have Tiffany's numbers. Everything else has to go through the call center. But as far as the budget's concerned, I have been looking at it month after month after month. I have discussed this with administration. I don't know what to tell you to say that we can pull this out next year. We have the same number of investigators. But I will look at it and I'll get back with you more on this and the changes that we can possibly make. You want me to check with the other states and see if we're comparable with other states, what their fees are? We can do. I'll do that, and we'll just start at the bottom and work up, see what we can do with the budget. We hold down expenses all we can hold down. The only thing I have any control over is supplies.
Is what?
Supplies. Pens for the office. Just whatever we particularly need in the office. That's the only thing I can hold down. I mean, if I need a toner for the printer, I just got to have one. It's just, but that's the only thing my office has control over. And we buy our own. I go to Sam's and I buy them by the case.
You track the applications, Cody?
Do I track the applications?
On a monthly basis in terms of the numbers that are coming in?
Every now and then I will take a look at those. Yes, sir. That's what I've been telling you for the last several meetings. There are no new investigators coming in.
That's what
I've talked to you about the apprenticeship. I guess I can go ahead, if you want, we can go ahead and discuss that little piece since we're doing the budget. I wasn't able to get a hold of Alabama at all. Georgia, they don't have an apprenticeship. Kentucky said no. North Carolina says they call them associates and they have to have 3,000 hours. Arkansas said no. Delaware said no. Indiana, no. Missouri said no, but they have to have 2 years experience. And they're called an employee. Nevada said no, but you have to have 5 years or else 10,000 hours of full-time experience. North Carolina calls the apprentices associates, and you have to have 3,000 hours. Excuse me. I told you last time one of the commission members asked me about that. So I did contact these other states to see about the apprenticeship. Some of them I think they're calling them associates instead of apprentices. But not all the states have apprentices. I don't know how you're going to bring people into the industry. I mean, unless somebody just wakes up one day and sees TV and says, I want to be a private investigator, and calls us. We will be going to, Mark, Amick, and I are going in September to a workshop for the public, and we're going to have a booth, and it's going to be for all our professions, and we're going to be talking about private investigations along with alarms, along with polygraph. We don't really get into polygraph too much because most of that is we do know most of that is law enforcement. But anybody that wants to know, I'll be glad to talk with them. So the word's going to go out that we will be there for the public, for anybody that wants to come in and talk to us about one of our professions. The other professions are going to be there as well. The contractors board, cosmetology, all the boards are going to be there. It's going to be open for the public, and that's what we're there for. To come talk to us, see if you want to get into this profession. How can I help you do that? How can I help you get on the website? Do you have questions? Then the question they're going to ask me is, how do I get a job? I cannot get a license unless I am affiliated with a company. I just tell them to have to call around and see if somebody's willing to hire them, put them on. So you hire them as what? They're not a private investigator yet, unless they have the experience. So they would have to be an apprentice. So I'm kind of don't know what to tell them. You go out on the internet, you fill out the application, you pay all that money, you go take that test, you do the fingerprints. You can't get this license without a company affiliation, so somebody's got to hire them. I'm open for any suggestions because I'm with the one that's your face out there that they're going to be talking to, and I'm going to try to encourage people to try to get into the industry.
If I can, Madam Chairman, Larry Flair, being a company owner, it's difficult, and this is it's difficult for an owner of a company to take someone underneath their colors, and if they don't have experience, because you, the owner, from what I understand, has to be in the presence of that individual. Okay?
We talked about that and about the possibility of changing that.
Right. And that's where I was going with this. That may be something that the commission might want to address. Again, if you will, is that a legislative statute? That's a rule. So we could change that on this level, correct?
Okay, so simply, I think what we're saying is I want to go to work. I want to learn to be a private investigator. I come to you, you hire me. Now, so you're going to be training me, but instead of my being in your presence constantly and you having to charge your customer for 2 private investigators, or however that works, I could be in my car in Memphis and you could be here in Nashville. As long as I'm in contact with my supervisor or whomever, if I do have questions, that's the only other way I know that could happen. But you're the private investigators. You'd have to tell us how to word it.
Well, again,
we wanted to change that.
Again, Larry Flair, one of the things about that as well, it's the other side of the coin. If you're a competent owner of that company, you're not going to put someone in a position, hopefully, that they're going to get out and stump their toe and do something improper. But in the same token, it's not necessarily that you have to be right with them. I think the company owners should be abreast of everything of the actions and what their investigator or their, if you will, their associate is affiliated with. But there's some things that they could do in their home, computer search and things of that nature, or go by and pick up and serve papers and things of that nature. So. Again, I think in my case, I don't have that problem on my staff, but all of my people I feel are very competent. But I think that some of the owners would attest to saying that, well, I have to be careful, and I don't know how we could get that across. Again, I don't know if we change the rules, it may come up to legal that we have a lot of complaints across the state. And I think we need to consider that before we make a decision on changing that rule. But
let me ask you, what has prohibited people from getting in the industry? We did have new applications. They have stopped coming in. So what has happened to the industry?
I think there's less work for private investigators.
That's where that could be. Now that I think we've already talked about that too at another meeting. Now that people can sit at home, get on their computer and do rephrase that. They can do a lot, maybe some of the stuff that you can do without a license.
Yeah, there's a lot of databases out there and stuff that are advertising now that you can get into for $29 and supposedly get
So let me ask the question that really I'm going to be asked. Why do we need the Private Investigation Commission?
You were going there.
Well, I'm going to get asked. These are questions I get asked on the Hill.
I think it's a legitimate question, a very legitimate question.
If it's changing that drastically and we're not getting new people into the industry, we don't have complaints. Why are we here?
Madam Chairman Larry Flair, I think it would be. I think it would definitely need a commission over this, and the reason being is to. I don't like the word police our industry, but in essence, that's pretty much that falls on our plate. Now, and please don't take that incorrect. What I'm saying, not that a director, and I know you're very competent, Madam Chairman, or Director, I'm sorry, that you're very competent to do that, but in the same token, the vast quantity of the industry across the state, I think, needs to have a commissioner governing that to safeguard to a certain degree. Now, I'm very much like Jerry said that the industry is changing. Everything is cyber this, cyber that, cyber that. I think there's a lot going on in our state that a lot of people aren't complying to the rules and the laws because there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of cyber stuff, and they're working for more than one client, more than one attorney. Now, I don't know of any directly because if I did, I'd report them. Okay.
That's the only way I would know how to do anything.
Exactly.
If you reported it.
And maybe I'm going around in circles here, but I think it's a need for a commission. Now, as far as the meetings, every quarter or every 6 months or, once a month and things of that nature, that's something I think that this commission should take advice from the director. But if the people on the Hill want to know why there's a PI commission, I think the answer should be is somebody needs to police it, and whomever would be better than someone of our caliber because we're either company owners or PIs, except for what we've got. Don't we have one civilian position?
Alan Russo is your
that's correct.
Public member, yes.
Right. That would be my response as an owner of a company and as also as a commissioner.
Okay, when I get asked, I understand that, and I would speak on your behalf and say that. And then they're going to come back and say, well, first of all, you don't have any money to keep this commission running. Okay, I agree. Second thing is you're paying for attorneys. You don't even have any complaints. Who's complaining? I'm not getting complaints. If you know somebody or somebody out there that knows somebody that is breaking the law, then yeah, tell us about it and we'll investigate that. But we're not getting those. I'm just.
Why do we have two attorneys if we don't have any complaints?
That is something I will ask.
Paul Valentine asked that question.
That was a matter of record.
Well, I'll explain the only way I know it, how to explain it. Administration said, I have an attorney, Ashley Thomas. She is your board attorney. She is with us every single day. And I talk to her every single day. Believe me. But, of course, she's the attorney for all of the programs, so we do talk constantly. They had changed up, from what I understand, legal, and I'm sure Stuart could probably explain it better than I can, but Stuart now gets the complaint. He works the complaint, he brings the complaint to you, and then if it needs to go to a formal, he has the complaint. He's worked the whole complaint. He knows what the complaint's about. Some of the problems we were experiencing was Asher and I would talk about it. We'd see stuff. Then we would hand it over to the litigator attorney, would see that, and then it's like, wait, no, I need more stuff to take this to trial. I have to do investigations. It just drug it out just way too long. And if you notice your complaints are being handled or processed in less than 180 days, there were some that we had for several years we were still working on. But that was my impression. That's why we are doing that. Legal could tell you better about it than I do.
That's right.
Can't Ashley do what Stuart is doing?
That's a decision that is actually above the both of us. We are assigned programs and assigned duties. Right now, I think the way they separate it, again, it's so that Stuart has the case from beginning to end so that he's not replicating work that I would maybe do if I had the complaint.
I hear where you're coming from. I tend to want to keep a commission, but I sure don't want to lose $20,000 a year for the taxpayers. That's just not good. I think we need to look at trying in some way get these applications increased.
Okay.
I don't see us as a
okay.
board being able to do anything in that area. You know, I myself, Walt Valentine, I wouldn't hire another investigator, no matter what their qualifications were or who they were. You know, I'm just not interested, and I'm not going to have an apprentice. You know, it's more trouble than it's worth. My opinion.
That's fine. That's what we're here for.
Okay.
I need
And-
everybody's opinion. This is what we're. I've got to go to administration, and I have to say this is what the commission feels. And if you feel differently than that, or have some ways for me to do this, that's what I'm here for.
I had another question. The customer service center. Why do we have that? You know, that's going to that phone bank
Yes, sir. That is
instead
something
of
that Commerce
coming directly to your phones.
That is, again, that's administration. I'd have to have someone come down here probably explain it a little better than I could. It's for all of the programs go to the call center. All 27 regulatory boards. Every program has changed. Now they've got it all going to one area, which is the call center.
If they've got 27 times $3,800, that's a lot of money.
No,
for
it's
a call center.
27. No, I'm sorry. Misunderstood me. The 27 regulatory boards.
Yeah.
All the regulatory boards are going in there, and all the fees are to be, from what I understand.
But each one of the boards has a fee for that customer
Yes.
service center, right?
Yes.
So ours is $3,800, and theirs is probably a similar amount. So if we have 27 boards at $3,800 a piece, that's a big piece of change for just somebody to answer the phone.
That is something that administration would have to come down and explain to you a little bit better.
Bring them down here.
Okay.
Is that a prorated amount to every regulatory board the same?
Well, I'm going to say yes, but I really don't know.
See, that's
the
where I
answer.
think that's wrong that way because
it's
you've got
different
more
every-
going
That don't
on.
sound enough. That don't sound like enough money to me to manage the people that they would have in the call center. It is something that the state has decided to go to the call center.
Well, just because the state decides it doesn't mean it's right, though. We'll be glad to discuss that with them. Each month it's a different figure, so I figure that it's based on the number of calls that were
Or
received.
telephone calls, yes, sir. It's
Yeah.
based on the number of calls.
Okay.
I don't want to. Some of this I just don't know how to answer correctly. Some of it's out of my hands. I'm told we got a call center. Here's the people you're going to train them. We do our best to do that. But yes, sir, I will ask the administration to come down and pay us a visit. Probably won't be this meeting, but
I hope not.
Stuart Bain.
to explain more, to explain the budget, someone who can explain it better than I can. Yes, Mr. Bain.
Well, I've been listening and am of the mind as Larry Flair that this commission is needed. That I would stand as not afraid to raise fees if it was necessary. I pay them myself. I would suggest that the commission, come armed on September 21 with some paths forward. And I would ask you, if I may, Mr. Chairman, to arm the commission with trends, numbers, track records that can help us move this commission forward and next fiscal year, end of FY19 in June, and in the positive.
That sounds good, Mr. Bain. I appreciate that. I will look into that. You're not going to end in a positive until we get more people coming in to this industry or the fees go up.
I'm working on that,
yeah,
Ms.
got-
Director.
okay.
I'm working on that.
One or the other. Now you say trends. Where am I going to get these trends? What trends are in the industry? I've contacted other states.
Rising in the trends in licensees across the state of Tennessee.
Okay, yes, sir. I can tell you how many. Hopefully, I should be able to tell you how many we had 5 years ago compared to now. What the fee when we did before we had the fee increase, which
And when were the
had one
fees
in
last changed? Ballpark it.
have we even raised fees since '93?
It hadn't been since Madam Chairman Larry Flair. To my knowledge, it hadn't been since '04. It had to be before that. I don't think we've had it since '04. That's how long.
It's been a long time. It was way before I've been.
Since 99.
Well, and I think that's quite a good track record for a state that's discovering itself in the red on a profession.
20 years at least.
Not having changed any fees in umpty years.
It looks like it might be August of '03.
Those are renewal. License fees would be November of 2006.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been 12 years being here. That's a long time without raising anything.
Okay, I think what I'm hearing, you would like several options here, and one of them I probably need to try to figure out how much to, if we decide that's what we need to do is raise fee. We just don't want to throw a number out there. We're going to have to think about this logically to see what the fee increase would be. But I want you to know, I think it's renewals that we're talking about, not applications.
Being here, I concur.
Okay.
Renewals we're talking about. I'm talking about. Yes.
Yeah.
That's all of the private investigators. That's not to hinder the people coming into the industry.
Right.
And being licensed in North Carolina, I'll let you know what I find out about North Carolina. Been a while.
And we need to know how much each increase would provide to the commission. You know, if we increase it $25 or $50 or $100
right.
a year.
That's what I'm going to do.
Whatever.
That's how we'll do it. All right.
Madam Chairman Larry Flair again. Do we have electronic contact to each license? We don't do that. We have electronic contact emails to all the companies, I know. But do we have a roster that would have an email address for every PI?
Only if they provided the email address. We are trying to get email addresses because that's how we want to correspond in the future with everybody, electronically. We're going to talk a little bit later about the letter, and it will be sent out to all the companies and to the private investigators themselves. And we want to do it electronically. But there are some that don't have or didn't give it to us when they've been with us so long. And people have a tendency to, for some reason, to change that email address. But yes, that's what we're trying to do. Every time we see a new application come in, we do put down their address so we can contact them electronically. But remember, everything comes to the company, to the qualifying agent. The only thing that actually goes to the investigators themselves is a criminal record that you would not see. But you have asked us to develop a letter, which we will talk about a little bit later, and it will be going out to the private investigators as well.
Stuart, here I would also ask you to look at the renewals over the last no more than 4 years. If you can take a look at them, they should be able to look at them by month or by quarter to get a sense of that as well. That would be another variable.
For the trend. Yeah.
Right.
Next one was the number, so yes, I'll get with our IT department and start asking for some of this information. But as private investigators, you see anything out there, or you know anything from these other states, just drop me a line, call me, or send me an email, and I'll add it to our list, and we'll just keep them going. Any other questions on that?
Just Stuart, again, just the idea that we should be prepared to discuss this more with identifying concrete paths forward in September.
Yes, and I would like everybody's opinion on that. Don't mind. We need to speak
Yes, of course.
as a whole. Uh, just lay it out there and let's see if we can find out what's going on, how we can fix this, how we can change it, or what we need to do. Let's just do it as a commission. If you don't have anything else on that, the legislative update, I don't believe we have any.
We talked about fresh start last time.
Mm-hmm. Application review, there are not any there's not anything on the application review. We don't have any correspondence either. Mr. Russo, are you still with us?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Sleep.
All right, good. Thank you. We didn't hear
I
you.
wasn't asleep. I had my mute button on.
Mr. Russo is our public member, so he chose not to speak on this subject. That's fine. Okay. The Education Committee, the Education Review. I'll go ahead and, if Mr. Chairman, and tell you that all of those were approved at the Education Committee.
Yes, all 8 of them were approved.
Yeah. Going into the names. I think next thing that you look at is what we're going to do is some unfinished business.
But do we need a motion for the education
for the
report?
whole. I'm sorry. You're correct.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the education report?
I'll make that motion.
Second, Commissioner
Larry
Brown.
Flair.
Okay. Motion and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Unfinished business. Any unfinished business?
Yes, we do. We
Director
have
Cody?
some unfinished business. This is going to be the letter.
Yes, at the last meeting, the commission asked me to prepare a letter to send to all the licensees and the investigations companies, just to reiterate to them that the continuing education needed to be completed before they submitted a renewal application. I believe Cody's staff had been receiving renewal applications and then would have to come to the commission and ask them to approve the continuing education after. So we're trying to send out this letter to kind of stop that from happening. And I'll take any feedback you all have about the letter now.
Any discussion on the letter?
Let's get. I think. Did Alan get one?
I don't know.
Did Alan get one?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't. All right, we will email that to you. Do we need to read this into the record? Let's give the commission members a moment to read it. It's on their iPads, first time that they've seen it.
Chairman Valentine, Larry Flair, I have a question if we could. Can we discuss it now?
Yes. Please.
This is pretty much stating what we addressed last meeting, and the penalty for not having this done, it just says as a rule that they're not going to be able to apply unless it's done, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So they can wait for a period of time after their license expires to take the education requirements?
If the continuing education is not completed, then they are submitting an incomplete renewal application that wouldn't be approved. And failure to renew your application, they would have to reapply and start all over.
And if you will,
So their license is going to be suspended once they.
Well, it would expire at the end
it's
of.
been expired.
well, isn't there a day of, Larry Flair, isn't there a day of, I think there's an area of 30 days?
Are you talking about the grace period?
Yes.
I believe it's a three-month grace period.
90 days.
Yes.
So they could stand for 90 days and not do it, and then but they couldn't practice legally
Right.
because they would be in an expired status.
Right.
And then when they applied,
They still can't.
and it's 90 days, not 30.
Yes.
Is it 30 days?
What?
We stand corrected. It's
Okay.
30 days. Your program, wait, I gave her wrong information. Excuse me. Days for this program.
So they have 30 days after their license expires to take the education requirement and submit it.
A late fee.
It's not necessarily to complete the continuing education. It is to complete whatever is holding their renewal application up. It could be a number of things. If they fail to submit something else that they're required to submit, they have 30 days to do that. So it's not solely the continuing education, but that is one part of it that would stop Cody from renewing that application.
That's what we're concerned with here,
Right.
is just the continuing education.
Right.
I'd make a motion, Mr. Chairman. Larry Flair, that we accept the letter as is, and if it needs to be read for record, read it. If not, submit the copy of it and issue it.
I second.
Go ahead. Robert Brewer.
Robin seconds. Okay. Any further discussion?
Yes, Stuart Payne. We understand that when the licensee receives this letter, the licensee is going to say, they're going to read it and say, it says, the licensee will not be eligible until the continuing ed is completed and submitted. Does the commission understand that when someone comes forward after being late and they didn't get their CEUs done, commission's going to be prepared to say, nope, you didn't get it done, we're not renewing you. It's not being renewed. Just trying to make it clear that the letter says,
Right.
it's almost as if it's not an encouragement, it's a, here's the line.
That line is 30 days.
Correct. That's the.
And
that's
if
the
they
grace
don't
period.
have it completed by then, their license is.
It's expired and they have to reapply.
And so, to finish my thought, if they are late and they've got 30 days, there's lots of training out there that they can get. And they can get.
Online.
And then they need to complete, they need to have record of completion, and then they have to submit it.
Right.
If they're 31 days after.
If they're at day 31, the rule and law says that they cannot renew that license. They will have to reapply.
The commission, go ahead.
Basically, my opinion, you have 2 years to get your training in. If you're too lazy to get it before it expires, the month before it expires, then you should be expired and go through all the thing to get back in, because it's your responsibility. So it's not the commission's to deal with them and baby them and get them their license. If you want your license, I'm going to training this year, and I just renewed this month. So training's good. So there shouldn't be an issue.
And I'm not Ms. Stewart, I'm not suggesting I think there are issues with this letter. I'm suggesting that we, the commission, need to be aware that.
I'm totally aware of it, and I'm behind it.
Okay, Baines out.
All right, let me see if I can go back to the meeting that we had. The problem we were experiencing is that I had to bring to you continuing education that Johnny took that wasn't on the course list, and I couldn't approve it, whether he was coming up for going to be expired or not, which he took it 4 months ago, whatever, just now submitted it. And I think that's what the problem we were experiencing was. They came to us and said, I've taken this, but it's not in the norm. And I went ahead and took it. Now I want the commission to read it and grant me this renewal based on what I've given you. I don't think we've been having a big problem with people renewing and getting their continuing education. What we were having difficulty with was the individuals who decide to take something, may I say, off the wall that's not on the actual course list. I don't have the authority to approve that, so it has to come to you. In the meantime, they've expired. So we only meet every other month. So if they expired last month, that was the end of their 30 days, they got a problem because I had to bring it to you. Then I go back and you say it was approved and everything's okay. I go back and open them up, and it's just a technicality there. So I just want you to understand what the problem was. The problem is people taking the courses before they get approved. And that's what this letter
That's what the first line of the second paragraph says.
Yes. First line of the second paragraph says you have to take your continuing education before you expire. You don't bring it back to us and the commission looks at it. Now. There are going to be extenuating circumstances, and I'm going to be bringing things to you. I'm aware of that. But hopefully that would be out of the norm, just so odd.
There were a lot of coming at the last minute.
Right, that's what
and
that was
we're trying to get around. And we are professionals. This is a professional organization, licensing. You attorneys the same way. They have to be sure their CEs are met, or CLEs, before their license expires. I mean, we're aware of that. We're adults, and I understand there's some that wait to the last minute, but it was putting a lot of burden on the staff. It was unnecessary. That was the reason that I talked about trying to generate this letter.
Okay, anything else for the Education Committee?
I called for a question on a motion, I believe. I don't think
We haven't voted on it yet.
Right.
it was under discussion.
Oh, okay. You had the letter, and we're getting ready to vote on it. And I love our legal staff to death, but as a public, well, what did that letter just tell me? I read it, and I do understand it. I just thought we wanted something that said you need to get your continuing education in here before you expire. The board does not want to see all this after you've already taken the course and didn't ask ahead of time if it was going to be approved. So as long as we all understand, it's basically that second, I think it's the second paragraph that we're talking about. And the private investigators are going to understand. And what do you want me to do if they don't?
Mr. Chairman, Alan Russo.
Yes, Mr. Russo.
Would it be possible in the second paragraph, I see that the before is highlighted or in bold. Would it be helpful to highlight that whole sentence?
I can do that. If that's what the commission wants, I can do that.
That is a suggestion, not a recommendation.
Everybody knows legal wrote this. I don't even talk like this, which is great. That's what we're supposed to do. They're supposed to write it. No, that's fine. I like that suggestion of voting the whole sentence. I just want you to tell me what I'm going to do when the individual comes to me and says, I got this continuing education, I want you to approve this continuing education I got in New York, and I went ahead and took it before it got approved by the commission. Do I still bring that to you, or do I say, no, it's not approved?
Larry Flair, Chairman, it spells it out in the letter, okay? All right, now, if someone says, well, I want to go in front of the board, they've got steps that they can come and they can appear. But I don't think you or your staff should have to go through this over and over and over again. And I don't want it discouraging other people to renew their license by any means. But I'm in the same boat, I think, that Commissioner Jerry alluded to. We're professionals, and, you know, it's in bold, it's in writing, it's in plain English. And if they're not responsible enough to take care of this situation, I'm not sure if I want them in the profession as a commissioner or as a fellow owner. It's just, you know. And I know we had one circumstance. We had a gentleman who was out of country. And it was brought on the board, and I think the commission used common sense as should have been and applied, and we okayed it. But again, this repetitious of extra work for you and your staff, I don't agree with it. It's you got 2 years to do it.
If the education they took is not approved, then it's not approved.
It says it in the letter, if you will.
So, Stuart Payne, Ms. Vest, you asked what's this letter tell me? There are two things. The continuing education must be an approved course under the commission, under the state, and it needs to be completed before the renewal application is submitted. Is that correct? Are those the two conditions?
That's correct.
That's all in the second paragraph. We're
Right.
talking about the second paragraph. Okay.
I agree with Mr. Shanks. We're big people. We're adults. We need to act like it.
We're not. I'm sorry.
Okay, but what I'm seeing, what Cody is saying, with, say, for example, somebody found a class, we hadn't heard of it, we haven't approved it, they're turning in their renewal, so we might need to put some wording in before taking a class that needs to be approved. I don't know, before the commission, if it's not already on the list or something. Does that make sense?
Mr. Chairman, Alan Russo again. That's why I made the suggestion to highlight that first sentence in the first paragraph. It says required 12 hours of approved continuing education before submission.
Okay, how about if that's what we bold? If we say it says required 12 hours of, and then we bold approved continuing education before submission. Would that be what you're talking about, Mr. Russo?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I would highlight the whole sentence.
We don't have a problem with that. We can do that.
Mr. Chairman, Larry Flair, I was the one that made the motion. I'll amend the motion to what Madam Director just said about highlighting the entire sentence.
Any further discussion?
I want some clarification on something, please. We're not saying that they can't take continuing education that has not been approved if they bring it before the board for approval prior to expiration.
Prior to their renewal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Prior to the expiration.
They took it a year into their 2-year renewal period. Submit it to us then.
Right. To
Give
get
the
it.
board a chance to
approve it.
Okay. When we do our seminar in September, I'm going to have this letter with me in case we do have any questions with private investigators, and I will discuss it with the private investigators at that time as well. Because that is the biggest thing. We're talking about private investigators. We're talking about their renewal. We don't want to penalize somebody because they took an excellent course. They just didn't take it in the right time frame. But then again, the statute says you have to have it done before you expire. And that's what we're trying to encourage everyone to do, to get the continuing education in here. If it's something that's not on the course list, you get it in here in advance of taking the course so the commission can look at it and approve it, then you take the course.
Well, I second Larry Flair's amended motion.
Okay, it's been seconded, proposed and amended. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So now we vote on the amended version of this letter. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carried. Most motions carry. So are we finished with the education report now? Let's go to unfinished business.
That was our unfinished business. And the other thing that we had already discussed when I talked to you about the other states. When I found out about the apprenticeship for the other states. That was going to be the rest of my unfinished business. So I don't have any more unfinished business.
Okay, do we have any new business?
I got one quick question. I don't know if it would fall under this, and it needs, in my opinion, needs to be addressed to council. As a commissioner, and I reach out to different companies across the state, if I do that in a private capacity as the owner of my company to find out their feeling about raising fees or not, as long as I don't act and make sure that they're clear that I'm not doing it in a commissioner's capacity, is there anything wrong with that, of your opinion of that, by me doing that? And
I think that's fine as long as you make it clear that you're asking as just a company owner and not necessarily as a commission member.
And for the record, the reason I would do that is to get a feel of across the state of what each company owner might feel about where they would go or not go on raising the fees, is where I'm coming from.
I would just stress that you're not asking as a commission member.
Thank you. I have no further. Thank you.
Well, if you did talk to another state, you could simply ask them their website what it is for the section that talks about the fees. Send that to me, and I can go out and do all that research for you.
Yes, ma'am.
You
Thank
do that. If not, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask them.
Any other new business?
Yes, sir. We do have two more new staff members, Jeff Renfrey and Carrie Niblett. I think Jeff is in the room. You want to stand up, Jeff? I think he's there. He just started with us 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks. He's a former state employee. We're glad to have him back. And then I don't believe Carrie's in the audience. But that does put us at being fully staffed.
And Mr. Jeff's role?
Don't think I know that, but I do. Everyone is administrative assistant. Right now, he was hired for his specific expertise. He would be helping me with developing reports, doing these spreadsheets that we're talking about doing, trying to figure out the trends and the fees from the other states, and doing the graphs and things. That's what he was hired. But right now, he's learning the profession, and he's keying the applications and the renewals. I asked him to come down. Miss Carrie must be busy with a phone call or whatever. To sit in with the commission meeting, see what we do, see the commission members, and I expect him to be a big help to us going forward.
Right.
But everyone that's hired comes into the office. They must sit down. They must learn how to key. They must learn the professions. We stick them on a profession. Right now, I believe he's working with private and protective services. It's one of the quickest ones to learn. Once you have learned that and learned how to maneuver with our new computer system, it's easier to go over to the other professions. Right now, the only one that you have actually key in your private investigation work is Tiffany at the back. She does an excellent job there. And she does other professions as well, not just private investigators. Right now, we've been dealing with Polygraph examiner. We've been learning that program a little bit better, and that application is not on the internet. We will be looking at that. We're going to revise that application. There's so very few of them with this new system going on. We apparently neglected to do that, but Mr. Richard, we're going to be working on the Polygraph application and make sure it gets exactly the way it's supposed to be. That's a very, very old application. But that's all I have, unless you have anything else for me.
Matter of record, didn't we have a name change on your staff too?
Just when I learned to pronounce Palazzi,
I was going to allude to
and
the
listen,
same
that
thing.
was not easy with this accent. She goes and changes it to Williams.
That's a tough one.
Well,
On behalf
I
of
said,
Commissioner Flair,
finally, I'm not the
congratulations.
last person at the end, So I don't have to be all the way at the end.
Well, congratulations, Miss Williams.
Very proud of that.
Okay, if there's no further new business, then do we have any continuing education participant forum?
No, we do not.
Okay. The next item is adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
You have a motion to adjourn, Mr.
Do I
Chairman.
have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Very much.
Thank you.
We're going to hang up now. Thank you.
I wanted to
Bye.
see if you
All right,
were
everybody
awake.
have a good trip back.
Okay.
Bye, ladies,
Thank you.
guys. See you later. See you.
Well, actually, I did have issues with them.